RuneFest is currently happening as we speak. As I'm recording this, they actually just got done showcasing what's to come in RuneScape 3 over the course of the next year. I haven't played RuneScape 3 in a long time, but man, I'm telling you, after watching that showcase, it makes me want to dip my toes back in, especially with the announcement that I'm going to be talking about today. They officially announced a leagues that is set to be coming to RuneScape 3. Being that I've played practically every single old school RuneScape league, paired with the fact that I've also put in a decent amount of hours into RuneScape 3, today I'm going to talk a little bit about what I'm speculating this league might end up looking like, because we're dipping into practically a completely entirely different game here with a system that old school RuneScape players are familiar with. I highly anticipate this dragging a lot of old school RuneScape players into RuneScape 3. For the most part, this is going to be speculation because we're in the early announcement phase of this league, but they do give us a bit of a time window of when we can expect this to launch, and that is sometime late autumn, beginning of winter. It's coming right after the new combat boss, a mascot, and before they start the new area expansion. So honestly, I'd expect this to launch sometime in the October range, but that's just speculation. Could be earlier, could be later. But now let's dive a little bit deeper here and talk about old school RuneScape leagues and how exactly that might fit inside of the RuneScape 3 game, because there's some stark differences here that we need to address. Let's kick things off here with the areas in RuneScape 3 leagues, because where you start and what you unlock is going to shape your entire experience. Over in old school RuneScape, you get a few regions auto unlocked right out the gate, and for RuneScape 3, we're pretty sure that's going to be the same, being Mistalin, Karamja, and possibly Anachronia as well, because that's like the fossil island equivalent, essentially a massive prehistoric playground that's just packed with content. It's not entirely guaranteed that Anachronia is going to be unlocked, but I think that's a good guess. However, something that's different from old school RuneScape is your starting area. There's a good chance that you're going to end up starting in Taverley, because over here is where they start off the main game nowadays. There's a ton of early level training activities, some early level combat. This is where the tutorial of the game really takes place. So this does beg the question, how is this going to affect other regions such as Asgarnia? Because presumably this is in the Asgarnia area. So we could very well be looking at Asgarnia being on the list of auto unlocks. I'm not entirely sure here. It is up in the air. Maybe they just carve out that starting zone and still keep Asgarnia as one of the selections that you need to make in order to get up into the God Wars dungeon. We should find out soon enough, and keep an eye out on the channel, because I'll be sure to dive in deep on each of these regions, some theory crafting. We've got a lot of plans for this. But when it comes to the area choices that you have to unlock, you get to pick 3 from this lineup here, being Desert, Mortania, Wilderness, Asgarnia, Kandarin, Fremnik, and Tiranwin. And at first glance, this is incredibly similar to old school RuneScape leagues. However, it's not entirely the same. Inside of RuneScape 3, these are filled up with completely different skilling methods, bosses, and unlocks in comparison to old school RuneScape, and there is no Kurend either. So your options are even actually a bit tighter inside of this RuneScape league, but in all honesty, I think they're going to be a little bit more complicated. I'm in the process of working on an in-depth guide for each region, where it's going to break down what you're going to unlock, why it matters, and how it ties into other regions. So be sure to keep an eye out on the channel for those. But let's go ahead and dive into the skills that is going to set this league apart from old school, because RuneScape 3 brings skills to the table that old school RuneScape players have never touched, and they're going to really shake things up in this league. Let's break it down here with the big 3 being Invention, Dungeoneering, which is probably one that a lot of old school players have touched, and Archaeology. First up, talking about Invention, in order to even unlock this skill, you need 80 Smithing, 80 Divination, and 80 Crafting, which is no small feat. However, in leagues is going to be much easier to obtain. But also with Invention, a ton of its best perks and quality of life are tied to Asgarnia. This is where the Invention Guild is located, and that really unlocks a lot of quality of life for you. And that is almost essential for Invention nowadays, which honestly is making Asgarnia way more tempting than it was in old school RuneScape. However, Invention is not fully region locked, because if you want to train it, you can. It's just if you really want to max out Invention's potential, Asgarnia might feel like a non-negotiable pick. But that's kind of nice, because strategic choices like this are what leagues are all about. But next I want to talk about Dungeoneering, and this skill is inside of Daemonheim, and here's where things get a little bit spicy, because depending on how JAGEX splits the map, Daemonheim could fall under the Wilderness, or possibly even the Fremnik province. Or even better yet, the Daemonheim area might just be auto-unlocked for everyone, similar to Anachronia. Unfortunately, we don't have the full scoop yet, but things like this are definitely things that we need to take into account when we're theory crafting here, because it's entirely possible that you end up locking yourself out of Dungeoneering entirely. We'll get more information on this as time goes by and really hone in our theory crafting game plan here. But I want to move on into Archaeology, which is another skill that is a beast to train in leagues, because its best spots and unlocks are scattered across the map. For example, if you wanted to craft the Spear of Annihilation, you'll need to first find the tip, which comes from the Warforged dig site. Hopefully you have this area unlocked, and this isn't even mentioning the other materials, which could force you to go into even more regions. It's really going to be a puzzle that you have to piece together with this league when it comes to game planning, what sort of endgame weapons you want to use, especially when it comes to skills like Archaeology and Invention. But even for skills like Divination, for example, you could get stuck training Divination at the level 20 Varrock Rip because you don't have any of the other spots unlocked, and now you have to train from level 20 all the way to level 50 where you get the Karamja. Now, with the league's experience rates being boosted, it's not a game over, but it is definitely slower. And again, I'll dive deeper into all of this inside of future videos, but these skills and how they're tied to specific areas make every unlock decision an absolute game changer. RuneScape 3 Leagues isn't just about picking your favorite zones. It's really about building a strategy that's going to end up working here. But now I want to move over and talk about gear and the upcoming relics, because in old school RuneScape leagues, we've got those fancy echo weapons mixing things up. But for RuneScape 3, it's already got a massive arsenal of weapons leading up to, I believe, tier 92. So honestly, in my opinion, for this first league, I'm betting that they're going to skip the echo weapons and they're just going to let us run wild with what's already in the game. That said, I could be totally off here, and maybe they'll end up surprising us and dropping echo weapons into the game. What do you guys think? Drop your predictions down in the comments. Are we going to get echo weapons or no? But then there's relics, and relics in RuneScape 3 are going to be nuts. This game is already dripping with quality of life features, teleport, banking upgrades, you name it. RuneScape 3 has it. So what happens when relics crank that up to 11? I can't even imagine. And honestly, I could talk for hours about possible relics that would make skilling faster, insane combat boosts. Who knows what we have coming, but I'd rather wait for the official reveal of these relics so we can theory craft more properly with real information. That doesn't mean we can't start thinking about them though, and what might possibly come. Be sure to let me know down in the comments your wildest relic ideas. But when it comes to this first look at RuneScape 3 leagues, we're really looking at a familiar yet totally fresh game mode. And if you're an old school RuneScape player, this is your chance to jump into something new and crazy. If you haven't given RuneScape 3 a shot, I know there's a bit of a stigma there, but honestly, I'm excited to bring you some more content in regards to this RuneScape 3 leagues. I don't have a maxed character on RuneScape 3, but I have put in hundreds of hours into the game. I'm definitely stoked to jump back in, especially with this upcoming leagues. We're going to be dropping detailed region guides, skill breakdowns, and eventually a full game plan in order to crush this league. Hit that like button down below if you are excited. Subscribe if you haven't already, and let me know down in the comments, are you guys going to be jumping into this league, and what's your first area pick? But that's all I got for now. I hope you guys all have an amazing day. I'm out.